It's so cool that the 2 of you are here. It really, is really meaningful. There was spiritual things that are been happening, which has been really fantastic. So, I'm feeling, really excited and really, a different sense of confidence right now because, I woke up at 2 in the morning, wrote a post about why I talk about sex so much, and it was the first time that I felt like anybody who has never heard about masculine and feminine energy that they could get it, that they could understand what it is to manifest with energy and what it is to balance your energy. And so just getting that out of my system and posting it today, and then having this workshop, and then the energy that's shifting with the cosmos, with where the eclipse is and where the full moon was, which I'm not entirely sure what it was, but they're both hitting my rising sign and my moon sign, which has to do with masculine and feminine energetics. So it is so cool that we're all here and that our paths continue to cross and do all this cool stuff together. So this is really exciting that I get to share this with you, because what I've done is really taken a look at what I've been able to do in the tangible that were the things that I was never able to stick with, and what spiritual practices I learned that helped me get there's a saying called, to get your energy behind it. So we have to be the person who can carry on with the lifestyle, rearrange the lifestyle to begin with, and carry on the habits to keep refining your body. Because on a cellular level, what's actually happening is when you are burning fat, molecules of emotion that have been on in your body however long your body has existed, are stored in the fat. And so a lot of times this is why we stop making progress, because those molecules of emotion get released from the fat when the fat cells empty. And that's when we get in our head and in our feelings. And if we can be proactive in understanding what's actually going to happen in the process of dieting, then we can actually face all of the fears and all of the self-doubts and all of our own self-imposed limitations head on. We go into it expecting it and knowing that they're going to hit. And that's in hindsight, every time I've gone through a dieting process, whether it was for health or whether it was for an aesthetic, any type of process, it's like I learned something else about the mind body system. But because I already came with it with something else, because at another time when something wasn't working, it was like I had a little bit of a higher perspective on it, like one stair rise above it. So I could be like, okay, well, I know this thing's going to be coming. So what do I do to be proactive about it? So then when the things did hit and I was in a low space, I could still stay pretty grounded and observational of my emotions and what I was doing leading up to the event that was making me want to eat my emotions or have the flare, or have something happen where I couldn't follow through. And something happened recently. Oh, this is what it was. So I was PMSing, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking new CBD gummies 10 days before my period hits to try to navigate that, to make the symptoms a little bit easier. So then it was a Friday night, and I was like, okay, how am I going to distract myself if I'm PMSing? What would be a really good thing to pamper myself with? I was like, I'll go to the spa. So I went to the spa. I went to a Korean spa where they're all walking around naked and they have the hot tub and the cold plunge and all these things. So I go in, get a deep tissue massage with somebody who didn't speak English. I really couldn't communicate. I just gripped the bread to let them know it was too much. And during the massage, I told myself, don't forget to drink your water, because it was so deep, especially whatever was stored in my hamstrings. My hamstrings were so painful. So I'm in the massage saying to myself, don't forget to drink water. Then I'm like, oh, when you get a massage at this place, you get to have a day pass to the spa area. So I was like, all right, well, I've heard people doing a sauna and a cold plunge. So I went back and forth between the dry sauna and the cold plunge 3 times each. And then I went home and I heard a ringing in my ear, like tin. And I was like, oh shit, what happened to my neck? And I totally forgot to drink water. It just totally escaped my mind. So Saturday rolled around. I do a pretty intense workout. By the end of the workout, I'm like, oh shit, I need to an emergency chiropractic appointment. So I speed across town to go to my chiropractor. And I was kind of feeling run down. And then Sunday, I wake up fully sick. And I was like, okay, well, goal wise, I decided on Saturday that I'm going to do a 6-week cut to do a photo shoot. The very next day, I'm sick. And it was kind of like, it gets to be this thing where it doesn't even matter if it's the chicken or the egg that comes first. Everything that I did leading up to it warranted me getting run down and sick. But also, I set a goal. So it's like, who are you going to be in the moments where you get set back? And I didn't work out that entire week. I like started my period a few days later, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to worry about how much I'm eating. I was way under the calories than I should have had, like according to my cut, my strategy. But I was like, I'm not really moving. I'm not really expiring any calories. So I'm just going to go with this. It is what it is this week. And I really just allowed myself to feel whatever I was feeling, and nothing bad came up. There was nothing depressing, but it was really just like, oh, this is an opportunity for deeper reflection. Cool. So, and before, when I would have a flare or get sick after setting a goal, there would be parts of me that would say, you know better. Why didn't you manage your emotions? Why did you let this happen? And a lot of times I would get really embarrassed about it. But who I am in my human design, and it's something that like I want to start talking about in the future. Um, Chiron is in Taurus. I'm the wounded healer. So it's kind of like my whole path is going to be a consistent refinement of how thoughts and feelings show up in the body, because I'm going to constantly be going through something physically to learn a different layer of it. And that's just my path, and it is what it is. So this is kind of like, just want to share with you like why I'm so excited. And it's so great that you two are here. And this 2-day workshop today, we're getting all into the tools. And then on Thursday, we're going to go into who you need to be, and then inner work tools, and kind of like a mental emotional game plan, so that you are working the strategy and the 3D of the tangible stuff of what you're doing to your physical body, pre-gaming with your mindset to know what to expect, and then also the inner work tools for you to balance your energy so that you're really moving thoughts, feelings, and your physicality in the same direction all at once. And let me pull up the slides. So welcome. We will have I have this all planned out. You'll just see how it all goes. So I'll just go with it. So day 1 of redefining diet, especially if you're here on the replay, we are covering the strategy, calories, and macros tonight. So let me just get us out of the way. Okay, so some important details. The slides, this entire slide deck is going to be in the Facebook group. So just make sure that with the email that you're in the Facebook group, you have the link to it there. And the guides section, when you first go into it, it's going to look like this. If it's on your phone, there's like usually a little 3 lines of a menu that you're going to open up. But then the redefining diet is going to have its own exclusive area of a guide with the slide deck for today, with the link for the replay for today, as well as the slide deck and the link for Thursday. So this is how this workshop is going to run. So live and replay attendees, I want you to post any of your takeaways, any of your breakthroughs, or any aha moments into that Facebook group. This is the free community, and it would be so awesome for you to open yourself up and share what stuff has landed for you, so that it can encourage people to watch the replay and download the slides when they feel ready to dive into this material. And when we're here live, go ahead and post any of your questions in the group, and I'll answer all the questions now through October 6th. So our day 2 is on October 5th. So that means you'll process that information, and all night, all day, I'll be there on October 6th to answer any of your questions. But since it's free, we're keeping it just to the short amount of time of this presentations. And there are 1 of 2 of the last slides that you're going to use. This is what they look like. So in your download for the slide section, this is how you're going to decide what you're going to do for your diet. We're going to go over all of this information in the slides tonight, but as you can see that we're looking at it in quarters of what you're going to be doing. And these slides are later on in the presentation, and you'll know exactly how to use them. But like it says here, you're going to use one of these last 2 slides as like your strategy to implement everything that you're learning here tonight. Okay, so this blew my mind when I learned this, that there are only 2 types of diet. I learned this when I was doing my neurology classes. One diet is for fat loss and one diet is for performance, and they all splinter off from there. And when I stopped binge eating, it was right before I opened my gym Pilates barbell club. And I remember interacting with women who were still kind of in that phase or not understanding food and getting confused with all the information with diets. And at that time it was just bookstores. And I would say, look, like a book is just because somebody, like a diet book is just because somebody tried a way to change their body and it worked for them, so they wanted to share it. But there's only two types of diets: one's that's going to put you into a fat loss calorie deficit, and then one that is going to enhance your performance. And performance does mean health, it doesn't mean just athleticism. So when we're looking at this from a very strategic, grounded mindset level, you can lose fat from being dairy free, gluten free, or the Mediterranean diet. You can enhance your performance with changing up what you're having to increase your health, to adding more calories and more protein for strength, for muscle building, or adding more calories and carbs for endurance training. I really want you to think like these are just equations or parts of an umbrella that fall under just two types. There's only two types of diets in the whole world. So at the end of the day, what we're really looking at for like performance and health wise is that we're looking at cutting out foods that are allergic to our body. So cutting out the foods that cause us inflammation, or if we've had some surgeries where we can't eat as many macronutrients or types of foods because of how our digestive system is operating with a different type of organ situation limitation. We're looking at allergen-free foods, and then we're looking at either just a plain calorie deficit or a calorie surplus. That's it. That is all that you really need to know what's going on with your diets. And I want you to think that diet and dieting are two different things. So your diet could be just what it is that you're eating, right? So, like, I did an anti inflammatory diet for a really long time from constitutional acupuncture, and I followed the hepatonia eating regimen. So, that was my diet. And then on top of that, I did diet. I was dieting within my anti inflammatory diet. And so, if we go back to our two types of diets, fat loss or performance, I was doing a health diet on top of a calorie deficit. So, we could be doing both at the same time. And as we can see, the performance, you're either enhancing, like I said earlier, your health, and you're going all the way up to increasing your athleticism. So let's just talk a little bit about what we're looking for fat loss, because this will help take all the pressure off of all the different ways you can do this. Like you're doing keto, or you're doing paleo, or you're doing the caveman. So I think paleo and caveman are two different things. Basically, we just need to be in a calorie deficit. We just need to be eating a little bit less over time, so that instead of your body taking in energy sources through your mouth and consumption, it's pulling the resources from your fat. And if you go slow enough, a calorie deficit, just enough to where your psychology, your brain really doesn't feel it, your physiology really doesn't feel it, you don't feel deprived, then your body's going to retain more muscle while it's burning the fat. So that's a strategy that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And when we go into the strategy stuff, we'll go into it, but this is part of the how, right? So we need to know how many calories you need to actually get into a deficit. So what you're going to do is your current weight times 12. And now these are numbers going according to pounds. So if you measure your weight in kilograms, you'll have to convert to pounds first to do this calculation. So you'll take your current weight in pounds and multiply it by 12, so that you know how many calories it takes to maintain your current body weight. And the problem with us using 1,200 calories is 1,200 calories is if you were bedridden. 1,200 calories for most people is what it takes just for your body to function. There are some special cases where maybe some people don't even need that, because maybe they're like literally in a smaller body that doesn't have a lot of mass to move. I'm talking about like some of these women who are like 5'2" and a size 1, like really like that type of small frame. But for most of us, 1,200 calories is too low. So we want to take that psychology right out of our head, that mindset out of our head right now. So when you do this homework, I gave an example of what my 6-week cut goal is. That I've got my current body weight, my was current body weight, and my goal weight, and it's only a difference of 240 calories. That's not a lot. And so many times we automatically think we have to cut 500 calories because that's what we're told. 500 calories will reduce your body by a pound. But that's 500 calorie reduction spread out over the whole week to lose a pound a week. So 240, reducing that much is a very small deficit to be in. So when you're deciding what it is that you want to do, you have to decide how uncomfortable you want to get. And the reason why this is super important for you to decide your level of discomfort is because this is what's going to supercharge your inner work. And I found this when I was on my deficit and my anti-inflammatory list because the food selection was so low. I had to eat a lot of root vegetables and squash and peppers. And the squash and the peppers got super boring, but I didn't care because I had the goal. And so I just kind of, checked out for the most part when I was eating because I wasn't really that comfortable with cooking. So I overcooked everything because I actually didn't know that you could just like blanch vegetables. So I had a really horrible time cooking, but I didn't care. I figured out that since I didn't have an outlet, there was no chocolate, there was no alcohol. I was like, I have to figure out a different way to get pleasure out of my life than with food. So because it was so strict, number one, because I didn't want to have the symptoms because my symptoms were severe and the onset came on really quickly. After I took 4 months to figure out what eating in the anti-inflammatory list felt like, then I went into the deficit. Then I actually hired somebody to help me through it. And at that time, there was like, no asparagus, no broccoli, no greens, like all of like no whitefish, no fish, no sushi, no shellfish, like nothing. So all of the staples that made dieting really easy to be able to have a lot of volume with not a lot of calories, none of that was available to me. It was rice and root vegetables and the squash and the peppers and mushroom and onion. That was basically it. So the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is because I'm on a 6-week cut right now that is unsustainable. I will not be able to do this. I'm only doing this for the photo shoot. After the photo shoot, I'm going to slowly add calories back into my diet so that I don't gain weight super fast. But this is uncomfortable. And if we choose to go fast, the lifestyle change, the habit change, and the molecules of emotion that are going to be emptying from your fat cells is going to be a lot to take on. But I feel if you can have your head in the right space and understand that you will have moments of failure, that's where you also get to balance the feminine energy of nurturing yourself through this. You get to challenge yourself through the masculine energy of following through and compromising the in between with how much you're going to love yourself through the process. It really is a chance to parent yourself again of how it would be to be nurtured by the most loving mother you've ever seen in your whole entire life, and how to be protected and guided and like confirmed by the most masculine but gentle father you could ever hope for. That's really what I got out of it. And so I want you to like really, think about this, what you want. And so you could even look at, like, side note for the live participants, we're starting the cut on Monday. If you're going to do a 6-week cut with me, look at what's going to happen in the next 6 weeks, whatever, I think it's like October 9th or something. Look at what's happening in the next 6 weeks to see, like, what are your social events? Do you actually need to pick something that you're going to have more social freedom because there's like maybe, 2 events every single week. So it's like, how much discomfort do you want to put yourself through? Is it worth it? It might not be worth it. My discomfort's worth it because this is a photo shoot that I'm not going to be doing all the time because of who it's with and how much it's costing. So I can cut the social stuff out, no problem right now. It's not a big deal. So you really want to analyze what that's going to be like for you so that you can choose what you're bringing yourself into. So a slow diet is over time, where you're just reducing a little bit of calories so that you can burn the fat that's on your body. And a fast diet is for a period of time. So, like I said, I'm doing this for 6 weeks. And on Monday, I'm taking a group through doing a 6 week cut with me to have some coaching and go through the process together. So, here's an example of something over time. So, like I said, that what my 140-pound weight down to a goal weight of 120. I don't know if I'll get that. I might look sickly at 120 because my body fat isn't very high right now. And so I've got a lot more muscle. I've been lifting really hard for like 6 and 7 days a week for a whole year. So I might look disgusting at 120. It might be way too skinny. So I don't know if 120 is actually going to get to where I'm need to be for the 6-pack aesthetic that I want to have. It might not be that number, but I have the numbers here to show you that if I was going to go slow and steady, I would actually cut that 240 in half and make sure that I was eating to satisfaction. And that's going to give me the more social flexibility. It's not that I'm doing it for the social atmosphere. I'm doing it to have the outcome is that there's more flexibility. So what you see here is that Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, we're just shaving off 120 calories. That's it. There's nothing else changing. And so that would be an example of what you could do if you wanted to do it slow over time. And if you wanted to do the 6 weeks with us, you would just have your coaching around that and really kind of have like, your coaching would be more of like, how is this a strategy that you do for a whole year? Because what if you did this for a whole year and you lost 10 pounds over a 12-month period, but because you never went through a deficit and you never felt deprived, you just graduated yourself into a lifelong lifestyle after 12 months of not overeating. Like I have a lifestyle now of lifting weights almost all the time, even if something's out. Like I went to the gym today, not 100%, but I was like, what can I do? So I'm really able to push my body despite its dysfunction. So that's what you would be doing with this overtime dieting. Now, over a period of time, this is what it looks like. You're doing 2 to 3 months at a time of maintenance calories. So whatever weight you're at now, you're eating that many calories and you're only going into a deficit, perhaps a little bit sharper. So maybe that 240 calories instead of 120 for 4 to 6 weeks. I'm doing 6 weeks because this is the lineup for the photo shoot. You could do it just for 4 weeks. And to be honest, there are a lot of fitness coaches who have moved from binge eating into a satisfied moderate eating lifestyle that say 4 weeks is enough. Don't diet more than 4 weeks at a time so that you don't trigger any of the old behaviors and you don't run down your physiology to create cravings. So this is the example if you were doing a period of time. So you could see that over a 12-month period, if you were having a little 4 to 6 week diet window where you were more strategic with reducing a larger sum of calories, this is what you do. You would lose more weight over time in theory. You would do more proactive shadow work and energy balancing, and you'd have the result that you would get from this. This is most likely what I'm going to be doing for myself from now on. Okay, so let's talk about macros because that's what it's really about. We want to be able to make sure that we're eating enough protein so that we can not just retain the muscle that we have, but grow it, because most of us are lifting weights. I know all of us that are on the call today are lifting weights. We have to have fat because there are fat soluble vitamins and it's really great for your brain. And then carbs. Carbs produce the hormone insulin, which is actually the golden hormone that builds your muscle. It's like the steroid shot to your protein to grow your muscle even faster. It's just that we usually eat too many carbs, so we have an adverse effect with it. So the importance of macros and why they're like, another reason why you also have to keep track of them is, I'm like, if you want to, you don't have to, if you're tracking your macros, the reason why we do it is because we're being able to have some flexibility within our food and staying in the calorie range for that deficit or our maintenance. So protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram. Carbs, a lot of times, if they're um, a natural carb like a potato or rice, they're going to be more voluminous. They're going to take up more space in your stomach than the protein, but the protein takes more work on your body to digest. So the protein kind of lasts longer, but the carbs make you feel full. But we want to make sure that we're eating more of a natural carb so that we don't spike our blood sugar to cause a craving later. And then the fat has 9 grams of calories or 9 calories per gram. So you're eating double the calories in usually a smaller space. And fat does make you feel satisfied for long periods of time, dissimilar probably to carbs. Carbs a little bit more fast acting, but they also are going to add some weight to the body faster just because we have less space being taken up in our body. So we're more likely to just eat more fat. It's very easy to eat a lot of cheese than it is to eat a lot of chicken breast. So when we are working our diet to factor in these macros, what ends up happening is if you end up going out to eat, like this happens to me all the time, go out to eat, end up eating more carbs than I planned on. So I'm like, okay, well, if I ate more carbs and I have all these fat macros left over, and I know that I ate a bunch of carbs with rice, that the rice wasn't cooked in oil, then that means the next meals after this, I'm not going to have as much fat. Or if I do have more fat because I'm PMSing and I'm like, oh my God, give me the cheese, give me more nuts, then I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to eat more fat today, that's taking up twice as many calories than if I was going to stick with my regular regimen. So I'm going to cut back on some of the carbs just so I can stay within my calorie range. That's the whole point. And there are definitely already times on this 6 week cut. I think this weekend I ate too much. I didn't really measure, but I didn't eat to where I was stuffed. But the scale, I was like, oh, I guess I didn't eyeball that very good. The first week of my diet, day 1 of my period, I let myself eat whatever I wanted. And it was like handfuls of trail mix. And I think I went over by like 300 or 400 calories. I'm not sure if I measured it, but I definitely know I was over. But I was like, it's one day. And like, I'm going to do this. So it's not like you have to be perfect at it on a cut. So what a lot of times people wonder is how do you factor in your alcohol? So these calculations are on the internet because everybody looks for them. And the reason why we register it into your macro tracking as a carb or as a fat, because you never want to sacrifice your protein for drinks. So otherwise, it could easily be as a carb / protein, but we're not doing that. We're not compromising our muscle and protein because protein is good for your heart and for your cells. So when you factor in your alcohol, if you do want to go out and have social time during your cut, this is how you plug it into any of your tracking. That if it's a carb, it's 6.2 carbs, which is 25 calories each. And then as a fat, it's 2.8 grams of fat, which is also 25 calories. So a lot of times you'll say, okay, like I'm going to have 100 calories worth of alcohol, and you'll plug it into your app, however it is that you want to remove that macronutrient from that day. Okay, so the macros, to refine this information even more, your protein is mostly the muscle growth. Your fat is for your brain health and your vitamin solubility. And your carbs are for energy and a growth hormone. And I guess I left out the asterisk. I meant to put something in there about insulin, because when we have the carbohydrate, it triggers insulin production in our body, which helps us grow the muscle, which is the reason why you'll see a lot of information to have protein and fast acting carbs after your workout, because the fast acting carbs with that insulin spike, takes the protein delivery system to repair your muscles to the muscles faster. So you're able to grow and repair the muscle more in a quicker time frame so that you can really support your efforts that you're doing with your strength training. That's what that asterisk was for. So generally, okay, this is general for kind of like for the muscle building aesthetic. So you can think of having like 30 grams of protein 4 times a day. That's going to get you to 120 grams. That's really great for a lot of us for how many times we are exercising with weights to break down that muscle. It's a great amount. You could always do more. Your fat, we're looking at 20 to 30% of your overall calories. And your carbs, you're having an equal or more to your protein. And, obviously you can do math to do your 20 to 30% of your overall calories, but also your fitness app. If you're using My Fitness Pal, if you're using something else, when you set your goal, you set your protein first, and then you just start toggling back and forth with the fat and the carbs so that you can get that fat to 20%. So easy. You don't have to do actual math. That's what it looks like. That's how you set what it is that you're going to be eating. And of course, you could change what you're eating. There are some people that are like, you know what? I actually feel really, really good with not a lot of carbs. I need a lot of fat. I love to have more fat. And that's something that we're going to get into in the 6-week cut to really listen to your biofeedback of what your body is craving. But these are just the generalizations. Like I said, we're having kind of like the equal amount of carbs and protein so that you can build the muscle and then keep that fat somewhat low so that you're building that aesthetic. The carbs as the growth hormone to the muscle is what's going to give you that nice voluminous look to your muscle. So that's why we have these general terms, right? You'll always want to check in and see how you feel while you're on your method or your strategy. So here are a couple examples of what I eat. Even though I don't need to eat the anti-inflammatory way, I still do for the most part because it just makes me feel really good. They're like all really easy to digest. So you can see that this is a post-workout. And this is not a very big post-workout. There's only 50 grams of rice in there. That's not very many. But this was a meal that I ate. And today I had 100 grams of brown rice and I had 8 ounces of egg whites and I had an egg. That was post-workout, but with my schedule, it was actually an hour after my workout. It was really late and it sounded good. And there is something to be said to make sure that we are eating to satisfaction, because the more we can be satisfied and not worry so much about rules, the more we're going to adhere to it. So there would have been a time where I would have said, I have to like scarf this down before my client, which I didn't. I just waited until after I was done with my client. And in God's name, I'm not going to have egg yolk because that's going to slow down the delivery system of the protein and the insulin with the rice. But for the 6-week continuum, what is knowing myself, what is going to be the bigger payoff? To eat something with a little bit of fat and that yolk because that sounds really good and the texture in my mouth felt really good, or following a rule. Like there's going to be nuances to finding like how you feel with all of this stuff. And here I am with all my vegetables. I haven't been right now. I have not been calculating my vegetables because I blanched zucchini, mushroom, and bell peppers, threw them in the boiling water for 30 seconds, then dumped them into ice water. There's no fat in them. There's no salt. There's no seasoning on them. And I put them into containers that hold 2 cups. And zucchini, all those vegetables have hardly any carbs. So I know that like I'm probably getting at most 10 grams of carbs from those vegetables, but it's mostly fiber. So what I'm doing right now is just making sure that I put in my post-workout, like rice cereals, that I have rice flour or I have cream of wheat, or I have actual rice, and then I'm having rice or potatoes as my complex carb during those other meals. So I'm calculating those because those are going to be more of an impact carb wise. So just so you know, like you don't have to track every single thing, especially when you're eating very fibrous vegetables like asparagus or squashes or broccoli or leafy greens. You don't have to feel like you have to be like anal about tracking every single thing. Now, weighing and measuring, this is an important part of it because this is going to let us know how much protein we're actually getting, to know how many calories we're consuming. Same thing for the fat and the carbs and all that kind of stuff. So I actually have a food scale at home and a food scale at the office. I used to take them back and forth, and it's very easy to measure. And measuring weight is more accurate than measuring a cup. So for instance, if you have a rice cereal like cream of wheat, a riced cereal like cream of wheat, the package will say, it's 32 grams per serving, 32 grams of stuff per serving that has 36 grams of carbs. Well, you can, and the 32 grams, I think it also says slash a quarter cup. So you could scoop a quarter cup into your box of cream of wheat and then weigh it, and it's not 32 grams, it's more. So you could be eating sometimes 10 more carbs at a time. And if you did that over 3 meals, that's 30 grams of carbs. That's enough. 30 times 4, 120 calories. That's enough, right? I'm terrible with math. That's enough to throw you out of, enough to change your blood sugar, enough to change how much you're bloating, because every molecule of carbohydrates attracts 3 molecules of water, and it changes your calories. So I always prefer to measure with weight versus whatever a box says and using a plastic measuring for it. And then also the portion sizes for your hands. This is pretty accurate. Like it's not perfect, but if you don't want to take a food scale to the like work or to a restaurant or something, you could take a picture of your plate, right? Everybody does that. So that shouldn't be embarrassing. Take a picture of your plate. And then when you go home, you're like, okay, like, did I have a fist of mashed potatoes? Okay, cool. They probably put in butter and milk. Okay. So like, let me just like put in, an extra 20 grams of fat. So there's things that you learn what to do so that you can be as accurate as possible when you are tracking all of your stuff. So now we're already ready for what the decision it is that you are going to make. So you can print this out, and this is a slow burn over time. So remember that if you do your body weight measurement in kilograms, you're going to have to convert it to pounds and then multiply it by 12 to find your current weight and then your goal weight. And remember, like for me, I picked 120, but I don't really think that I'm going to get to 120. I don't think I need to get to 120, but I picked 120 because I wanted to like get like a good chunk of a calorie deficit, even though the 240 isn't that different than what I need. And you'll write in what the difference of calories are. And so I would suggest that you cut that amount of calories by half or a third, depending on how slowly you want to go. And you may have to try it for a week to see how you're feeling. Because when you are in this process, it's going to be on day 2, more of the observational stuff that's going on with your body to know how to manage your hunger, your energy, and your cravings, to actually have that biofeedback communication with your body to know, how to make those adjustments. So this is your homework if you're going to do the slow burn. So that means that if you're going to join live on Thursday on the 5th, you're going to bring this forward, and we're going to off mute on that day so that we can have some hot seat coaching and answer any questions that you might have. You can also post in the group if you're watching the replay and this is beyond the 5th. If you're here live, you could totally post in the group too. Like that would be awesome. It would inspire other people. Then if you were going to do a periodic fast burn, same thing with the total, with all the math that you're going to do, but you are going to decide where you're going to go, right? So for the purposes of right now, we're actually looking at quarter 4. quarter four would be the start of this piece of paper for you, then Q1, Q2, and Q3 of next year. And so you'll decide, you know, are you going to be in maintenance? That's what the M is. So you would circle if you're doing maintenance that month, or if you were going to go into a deficit. And you'll write in the month. So we got October, and you're going to write in the amount of calories that you're going to be consuming. So whatever your goal weight calories are, that's the amount of calories that you're going to be consuming. And then write in your weight, because then the next time you go into a periodic fast burn, remember, you're doing 2 to 3 months of maintenance. So November, if you're doing 6 weeks with us in the coaching program, it's, you know, just know that we're going to be off by 2 weeks. So say that you're going to have like November and December as your maintenance. January, you're in a deficit. February, March, your maintenance. April, you're in a deficit. That's what you would do if you wanted to do periodic fast burns. And like I said, like that's what I'm going to do, because I want to play around with having like not necessarily a calorie surplus, but I want to play around with my training to make sure that I'm eating enough food to grow muscle for a 4 to 6 week period of time, and then cut back on the food, change how I'm lifting to be more higher reps to then show off the muscle. And it's just going to be this like periodic thing of me growing muscle, shedding fat, growing muscle, shedding fat, without going crazy. And with knowing that in a 4 to 6 week period of a cut, if I have any ounce of feeling deprivation, I'm like, oh yeah, but it's only 4 to 6 weeks. You're doing this temporarily. You can handle this. What's the payoff? What's the strategy? What's the long-term payoff? So those are the things that we'll be thinking of. So in closing, okay, I know this was a lot. You have the replay. It'll be posted later today. Even I'll try to get it up to tonight so that you can listen to this tomorrow, because I really want you to be able, if you're going to join live on Thursday, to be unmuted so that you can get some coaching in, so that if you don't want to do the 6 weeks with us in a group, you feel confident that you can do it. And you know, I'm getting better at my content, so you'll probably have more supportive content on Instagram that's also going to help you coach yourself if you don't want to do it with the group. So if you're live and replay, you know, try to post any of your takeaways or breakthroughs or aha moments that you had tonight at facebook.com/group/bodyenergetics, and have any questions that you have that, you know, we don't get to on the call on Thursday, or if you have questions that you want answered before the call on Thursday, please post them in the group and I'll get to them. And when you're live on the call right now, remember, you're going to go to one of these 2 slides as your decision of what type of strategy you're going to do, so that I can coach you through it on Thursday when we have our live call. So let me stop the share. Yay. Thank you so much for being here. That was a big delivery. Yes, thank you so much. So any questions that you have, we'll see you in the group.